Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining Sphere Drones today on another webinar, Autonomous Drone Solution. So I will wait another couple minutes for a couple more people to join. And yeah, we'll be back in about 30 seconds, another minute or so. And yeah, just hold tight. Thanks, guys. Alrighty, yeah, like I said, thank you and welcome to everyone joining us today. Hope everyone's safe, healthy, and hope everyone's family is well. You know, in times like these, it's quite enjoyable to bring an audience together and educate them. And I'd like to kick off the presentation by welcoming Ron Hoffman from Percepto. He's the Australian country manager for the fantastic product it is. Welcome, Ron.
Thanks, Paris. Thanks for having us.
Look, I'd just like to go through the agenda for today, give everyone a bit more of an introduction to Sphere Drones. I'll allow Ron to introduce Percepto. We'll introduce the platform, the drone in the box solution, define a few more reports, insights, machine vision that the system is able to produce, and then start looking at the regulatory status, not only globally, but also here in Australia, and it will allow us to, you know, build out some question and answer at the end. I look forward to hearing some of your questions and answers. So throughout the course of the webinar today, I encourage everyone to please, you know, submit your questions and answers, and we'll look to capture all of them. If we don't capture them all of them today, on the back end of this, we'll put together a bit more of a Q&A form to assist you all. Without further ado, a bit more about Sphere Drones. For us as an organisation, we've been established since 2012. We work in a number of different verticals: sales, repairs and maintenance, training, not only the accredited type training, but the manufacturer-specific training. So whether it's a Matrice 200 series, or it's a Mavic 2 series, it's a Phantom 4 RTK, the Flyby, we specify in that sort of field. We also consult on a number of different projects. So whether it's custom solutions, the water sampler product that we've built out, you know, working with Ron and the team at Percepto. Any specific project, come to us, we're here to help. We also have on-site support options, enterprise agreements, but also we offer rental. As some of you may be aware, but we've got an office that's established in Perth. We've also got an office that's established in Sydney. That allows us to perform the East Coast, West Coast sort of situation. Now, without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a couple of people to answer a few polls here, and I'll look forward to hearing what you all have to say. So be interested to hear. So do you hold a valid REPL? And again, as we get these submissions in, again, any questions or answers throughout the course of the webinar today, I encourage you to please reach out and ask those questions. Just wait a couple more seconds. Fantastic. And it looks as though about 75% of the audience hold REPLs, which is great to see. The next query is, does your organisation hold an REOC? Launch that poll out there. Fantastic. A question that relates specifically to the audience in regards to Percepto. So this question is, in terms of data, what are you looking to capture with the drone? Is it automated or is it manual? So the first query is orthomosaic maps, volume calculations, statistics on personnel and vehicles, raw photos, and there's a last query there. So I'm not interested, or you're just here to learn. Fantastic. Last two questions, and sorry to bore you all with this, but the last one here is, does your organisation use drones in its operations? If so, for which application? Ron, it looks like we've got an audience here that's very much interested in inspection.
Cool.
Alrighty, so we can start telling our presentation towards an inspection type audience. There's a number of people that have selected others. So using the questions panel, if there is another application, please let me know so I can pass that on to Ron for him to be able to answer those and target those conversations towards that. And then obviously during this current situation, do you think that it changes the likelihood of an organisation to shift towards more of a drone operation presence on site? And that's just a simple yes, no answer. So another application here is counting people on beaches, Ron, and also wildlife surveillance. So it's an interesting one. Alrighty, and then that's it. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pass over to Ron now for his presentation, and you'll learn a little bit more about the Percepto product and the amazing product it is, let alone the team that's behind it. So just bear with me 1 second whilst I transfer the presentation over to Ron.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Paris. Can you see my screen?
Yep, no problems. Can see you there.
All right, guys, thank you very much for taking the time. Middle of the day or morning, depending on where you are in the country. We're going to talk a little bit about Percepto and more about what we think Percepto can support into your various operations. So let's start right into it. So a bit about Percepto. We are an Israeli startup. We were founded quite a few years ago, 70-ish team members all over the world with offices mainly in Israel. That's the R&D capability with the sales office in both the US and in Australia. We are deployed today with quite a number of Fortune 500 mainly companies. We're operating in 10-ish, I will say, countries, because I think it's a bit more now, including Australia, by the way. And we have something like 30 systems deployed and counting. So that's a snapshot about us as a company. It is important to say that as far as drone in a box or autonomous drone in a box application goes, we are by far the most deployed system, the most commercially available system. As I said, with more than 30 systems, with more than 20,000 missions logged and counting, and a lot of experience with working with complex sites and big organizations. So that's us. I will show you here a 3-minute video. It's a bit long. It is available on YouTube as well. If it's a bit choppy because of whatever with the internet, then again, you can access it after this webinar. It is important though, because I think it provides a good benchmark visual reference on everything that we're going to talk about afterwards. So let's kick in.
In our hyper-connected world, blindness is no longer an option. Being unaware of a dangerous malfunction, a security breach, or an emerging trend can lead to financial damage, shutdowns, and the loss of lives. That's where Percepto comes into the picture, with fully autonomous, intelligent, multi-mission drones. If you think all drone solutions are the same, think again. Percepto's unique drone-in-a-box solution changes everything. Place the box, define your missions, and you're good to go. With Percepto, your eye in the sky is equipped with state-of-the-art detection capabilities combined with powerful data processing solutions right out of the box, bringing you actionable insights across a range of tough industrial settings and enabling you to perform remote infrastructure inspection and anomaly detection multiple times per day at minimal cost. Perform round-the-clock monitoring of high-risk facilities and stop unauthorized people and vehicles with computer vision-based detection and tracking. Equipped with thermal imaging optics, Percepto drones work day and night, eliminating security blind spots without creating an unnecessary burden on your ops teams. And get accurate daily output and stockpile assessments, as well as 3D modeling and forecasting. In an emergency event, Percepto is first on the scene, providing situational awareness that can save lives without endangering them. Percepto turns teams into super teams, makes impossible tasks routine, and enables operations to be carried out safer, quicker, and more cost-effectively. Our mission is to make the world's most intelligent drone solutions as simple as possible for a safer, more productive world. We're not just talking it, we're flying it. Through countless missions, from Florida to South Korea, from Chile to Singapore, we make our customers' facilities more secure and more efficient. In a world that depends on a new level of awareness, the sun never sets on Percepto autonomous drones. Autonomous, intelligent, simple. Percepto.
All right, so now we have established that Percepto is like the British Empire. The sun never sets, so that's pretty cool. The range of industries that Percepto is relevant for is quite extensive. Currently, we mostly see deployments outside of Australia in a lot of energy applications, so energy and specifically in solar energy as well, not so much in Australia. We see a lot of mining applications as well. We are deployed in a mining site in Australia already. We do see some oil and gas applications, and that's growing as well. Airport, whether defense or civilian, deployment, seaports, and heavy industries. Where it's a security requirement, by the way, then it doesn't really matter what the industry is. It's just about the security requirement. It's important to kind of explain why automation is even important, right? So what does automation give us that we can't do with the way we've been doing things until now? On a really high level, automation, and specifically an autonomous drone in a box like our solution, allows you unlimited availability 24/7. So when you need anything that is imagery-based data, you have the tool, you have the asset on your site that is readily available, can fly day and night, and provide that, capture the imagery data that you need. There's no real limit on the data and applications. We like to say that anything that you can see with your eye, we can develop an application, or we already have an application that the machine vision can identify for you, or anything that you can sense thermally. Our system can again extract the insights that you're looking for with the thermal differences. This of course enhances the safety of your team members, and we already have quite a number of proven ROIs in different scenarios around the world, mostly with clients that have been around since we started our deployments in 2018. a lot of you are probably already using drones, and 10 different drones for 20 different missions on site. So a system like an autonomous drone in a box, and specifically Percepto, can probably do 70–80% of the missions you're already doing with our system. There's the 3Ds or the 4Ds, everything that's dull, dirty, dangerous, the drone can do for you. There are still some specialized payloads, missions that you will still need to do with specialized drones, but the Pareto of your aerial imagery acquisition missions can be done by a system like Percepto. We say that we are a multi-mission drone in a box because whether you're interested in the maintenance side of thing, or the security side of thing, or pile estimation side of things, the system can provide a solution for you. The idea is that the system is not just physically part of the site, it is integrated into your site architecture. And it becomes a team member or an asset, again, that's readily available and can provide different inputs or different outputs to different stakeholders within your site. For example, you can have every morning the system can go out to do a scheduled mission for perimeter security check, where the relevant stakeholder there can be your security team. Then an hour later, the system can go and do a site mapping mission that will provide inputs for your site manager for shift handover in the morning. And as part of that site mapping, they're also doing creek water temperature analysis. That's the relevant stakeholder there is your environmental compliance officer for his compliance audit trail. And then later at noon, you can do a pile estimation for your surveyors. And as part of that mission, you're also doing a thermal inspection of the pipelines in the turbine area, which provides inputs to your operations and maintenance team. So again, one system, it's part of your site architecture. It's not just physically there, it's integrated within your smart SCADA and sensors and whatever the architecture is, and it provides different insights to different stakeholders within the site. Now, we're talking about two types of missions with Percepto. There's scheduled missions and unscheduled missions. Scheduled being every day at 6, every day at 7, every day at 8:30. Unscheduled missions are either unscheduled automated missions where a sensor, let's say a thermal overheating sensor in one of the turbines, is initiating the drone mission as your first responder. So that's an automated unscheduled mission. But there's also manual on-demand unscheduled missions where you can't get hold of your dozer driver somewhere, and instead of going into the ute and driving for 20 minutes, you send a drone out manually to tell you what is going on, and you can see your mate having a smoke behind the tree. So that's a bit in general about the system. There's three main elements to our system. The drone, of course, which for some reason we called it Sparrow, even though it really should be called Wally. If you have kids and you know the movie, looks like him. So the drone itself is, it's about 10 kg. The wedge tails, we met them in the air. They're not gonna. They haven't yet decided that it's worth their while to tackle us. So it's a pretty big drone. We have the base station itself that is there to provide shelter, charging, and communication. And the main element in our system is actually the Percepto core. It's the software. It's a cloud-based, what we call the CMS, and we'll talk some more about that shortly. So, just to understand, the base station is around 350 kg, so not checking luggage on a Jetstar flight, but definitely something that you can put in the back of a big ute, okay? But it is intended to be not a mobile system, but a fixed system, although we have applications on a trailer that are mobile by nature, and that's something that can be explored depending on your site and your scenario. The base station is robust enough. We just tested it in Florida for hurricanes, so up to 145 miles per hour winds for survivability. So that's good for our cyclones as well. And again, the idea is charging the battery, sheltering the drone, and providing a communication port to offload the raw data that's coming out of the drone. The drone itself, probably the main interesting thing is the sensors. We always fly with two sensors, the 4K day camera and the very sensitive radiometric thermal. So we always fly with a thermal and a 4K camera, which we use day or night. It doesn't matter, you use both. Now, we talked about the drone, we talked about the box, but don't let the, those pieces of hardware confuse you. Percepto is first and foremost a software company. The only reason we have a drone in the box is because to be able to perform the software applications that we want to perform to extract the right insights for you guys, the only way to do that is to have a tool that's robust enough, ruggedized enough, and can handle, the dust and the wind and the temperatures and the snow wherever it is that you guys operate. So that's why we have the drone in the box. We actually started out as a software company, but reverted to also making the drone because there was no other system that can do the data acquisition that we needed in the challenging environments that a lot of our customers are working in. So the idea is not for you guys to have a drone that flies there and you watching the video, and learning things from watching the video. That's not the intent at all. We want to make sure that you're being efficient with your time, and we want to help you with that. So the idea is that we extract insights and we generate reports, and we send reports just as PDFs on an email to the different stakeholders. So like in the example I gave before, you can have your maintenance team at the end of the thermal inspection of your conveyor belt receive a thermal report on what temperature was the defined threshold was exceeded, and they can go and deploy preventative maintenance around that, for example, or temperature of hot turbine water exerted into the Mediterranean, and there's the government environmental policy around that. That can be as every mission, a report to your environmental compliance officer, and he can keep that as an audit trail to the regulator to show we are adhering to the policy, or if there is an issue, we can act upon it, and he can do it in real time as it happens. Those reports, by the way, are generated automatically. Some of the reports are, literally come out of the box, but some of them could be unique reports that you guys might have in a unique site or scenario that's of interest to you. So that can be looked at as well. All right, so I'll skip the security use case because it's less important. I will just say around that one small thing. While most of the analysis we do is post-mission, offline, security is done on the edge in real time because of the nature of the application, and that includes real-time human detection, tracking. That includes real-time vehicle detection tracking. Somebody asked about wildlife. You can teach the neural network, what is a kangaroo, for example, and you can do that. It's not an existing application, but it's in one of our Air Force deployments. They are looking at wildlife management as a potential application, for example. Another example of an application is a site map. You can see here on the left an example of your, just Google Maps of a random site somewhere, but there's a lot of value in getting your own quote unquote Google Maps satellite image that's updated every day or every few days, depending on the the size of your site, and that allows you to see in higher resolution really what's happening on site today. You can see the contractors with their with their vehicles and team doing the work that they're doing. How are they progressing? You can use that for shift handover and other applications that might be relevant, but you have a detailed, high-resolution snapshot of a map of your site every day or every other day or every week or whatever utilization you want to use for that application. Another interesting application is just progression of construction processes. By the way, this also applies for progression of piles in the mining space. So you can apply machine vision and smart analytics to show you what has changed, what was removed, what was added, what percentage of the project has been achieved. You can compare actual versus plan and see how you are against your forecast of progression, for example. So mud lines, for example, or underground pipes, if they're not too deep, these are all applications that our system can support in identifying. These are actual imagery from refinery in one of our clients, and you can see here deterioration in insulation of underground pipes that are being picked up by the system, and then are sent as reports, which you see in the background here, and your maintenance team receives a PDF with this report, and they know what is the issue, where it is, and they can decide how to act upon that. Here's another example of a pipeline leak. The team here defined a certain threshold temperature that above that they're interested because something is wrong. So again, it's a very sensitive radiometric thermal, so we are able to achieve that. You can see the bundle of pipelines that you have here. It's very time consuming for a human to go and with a thermal handheld device try to capture exact temperature across all of this bundle of pipelines. With a drone, it's of course much easier. Another example of something similar in a different site. Yeah, so this is a nice example of just 3D modeling, right? So by the way, we're not inventing the wheel. Some of our back-end applications include, the likes of drone deploy, for example. So once we do the 3D modeling mission, these type of elevation maps and 3D models are available for you on our system post-mission. So let's say 1.5 hours after landing, you can go ahead and do pile estimation or view the 3D model that was generated. I think that's less important. I mentioned some examples on environmental compliance. So here's a report from, I think this is an Italian site around environmental compliance. And that's it for examples. The idea with this system is to allow your team to be more efficient, to be safer, to be able to concentrate on not capturing the data, but actioning the analyzed data. And that's where, again, the core strength with Percepto is the ability to autonomously and smartly extract insight from anything that is visual data or thermal data across your site. Now, just conscious of time, I will touch on the regulatory status of things. So, of course, as we are flying all over the world, we're flying in Chile, Mexico, USA, Canada, Portugal, Spain, Italy, Israel, South Korea, Singapore, and now in Australia. Wherever we fly, we of course have to adhere to the local CASA, right? The local regulatory authority. So it is important to say that wherever we are deployed, we have a very strong regulatory team, and we are able to achieve the highest levels of approvals. Where it's BVLOS, beyond visual line of sight, it's BVLOS. Where there's no such thing like BVLOS, as in the case of the FAA, then we get the highest waivers. In the FAA, we also have a special program running. I can't go into it, but we should have a press release on that, I believe, in the next few weeks. So we are as advanced as the FAA allows you to be advanced in that space. As far as CASA is concerned, we are currently in a scenario where the system, the manuals is EVLOS approved. BVLOS approvals are site specific, and we have one in the queue waiting for an approval against an existing site. We also have EVLOS via remote operation center, which we expect to be approved soon. And I think that kind of sums up the regulatory scenario for ourselves. So we are on a road with CASA. CASA has a lot of challenges currently, as you'll appreciate, with everything that's happening with the MOZ and now with the COVID-19. But we're very confident in being able to achieve both extended visual line of sight via remote operation center and beyond visual line of sight as soon as the corona allows us to achieve that. Okay. I think I said what I wanted to say, and I'm happy to take questions.
Fantastic, thanks, Ron. And the example here locally in Australia, there's a question that's come through. Can you talk through that use case in particular, by chance?
Yeah, so look, it's a mining use case. It's a tier 1 mining company. I can't go into specifics because we're waiting for a press release to come out. I hope the press release would have been out already, but it's out of my control. It's around mining space, and it's around pile estimation and visualization.
Fantastic, thank you. There's another question here in terms of flight time and charge time of the aircraft.
Yeah, good. That's a beautiful question. So theoretical. So first of all, it's a ratio of 1 minute of flight based on 1 minute of charge. So you need to charge 10 minutes of charge will give you 10 minutes of flight, right? Theoretically, you can fly 40 minutes. Actually, you know, with wind conditions, probably 37, 38. But with power reserve that you need to maintain for like fuel reserve, I think the average emissions are under 30 minutes, so 25-ish minutes.
Fantastic. And another question we've got here in terms of setup time to get a system established up on site.
Yeah.
Can you talk through the setup time, and then once you've gone through the setup time, can you go through the establishment costs and the business model structures behind it?
All right. So look, it takes about. So if we are coming to do a deployment, an operational deployment in your site, we usually say that we will arrive for 2 to 3 weeks. During those 2 to 3 weeks, we have deployed the system, trained the team, allowed the team to plan, execute, and access missions, and handled any site-specific, communication issues. By the way, something I forgot to mention: our system operates on LTE. So put in a SIM card and off you go. Tesla, Vodafone, Optus, doesn't matter, whatever has reception, or even your commercial LTE on site. If you don't have LTE, we can fly like any other drone point to point. So a full deployment takes 2 to 3 weeks, including the training. If we do a demo and we have a demo system in country, then it takes us about half a day to be ready to start flying. So So that's kind of, I think that gives you the range of, from a full deployment to a quick and dirty demo. And about commercial arrangements. So look, we're a flexible company. I'm not going to go into pricing now. I will say that we have both CapEx option where you can buy the system outright, and we have an OpEx option where you can lease the system for a year. Usually we do a 3-year lease. And the only thing I can say about pricing is it's probably, more expensive than you would like it to be, but not as expensive as you might think it is. So other than that, we're pretty open with pricing and one-on-one discussions.
Fantastic. And any sort of queries like that, feel free to reach out to us at Sphere Drones, and also Ron, we're more than happy to facilitate those queries.
One more thing, sorry for the interruption, that is important to say. With our system, you guys, the user on site, you guys can operate the system. Once we finished our deployment and trained you guys, you don't need us. So you can plan new missions, change site setup, do whatever you're certified to do. You don't need Percepto team members to come there to plan new missions for yourselves or to fly the drone for you. You can do everything yourself.
Fantastic. Can you talk a bit more about the environmental conditions? I know I've seen the unit myself personally on site. It's actually got a connected IoT weather station sitting on site, so it's quite intelligent in that regard. But are you able to go into a bit more detail around the wind and the environmental conditions that the aircraft can sustain?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I encourage all of you to go on YouTube and punch in Percepto wind. Actually, just a few weeks ago, we were in Perth and we did a demo, and we had probably the worst weather in 20 years in Perth. And when we did fly, that video that you'll see is landing at, I think it was 24 kilometers per hour winds, gusting 46, something really ridiculous. But yeah, it landed and it did a good job of it. So in terms of rating, the box itself is rated IP65. I think I mentioned the hurricane rating that the box is going through in Florida for one of our clients, Florida Power and Light, FPL. In terms of the drone itself, it's rated IP55. The limiting wind is for takeoff and landing, and that's 26 kilometers per hour and 45 for flight. We take the wind information from a combination of both the weather station that's next to the base itself and the general Google weather, if you like, for the location. So you might have good weather to take off, but it knows that there's 60 kilometers per hour winds at the moment, so it won't let you take off. So there's a whole built-in test phase. Once you decide that that there's a scheduled mission or an unscheduled on-demand mission, the system will go through a built-in test to test everything. The GPS, the communication, the battery, the different systems, and the weather. And if everything is okay, only then it will go for a mission if it's satisfied with all those test parameters. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, it actually answered quite a few questions there, Ron. I'm going through the questions right now. So there was a question on IP rating. So just to reiterate, those IP ratings, the drone's IP rating was
55.
And the box
65.
There you go. Thank you very much for that, Ron. Now, another question here is around I guess the roadmap and what the sensor suite looks like at the moment. So at the moment, you mentioned that it's got a 4K camera and also a radiometric thermal. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. What we also have is an allocation for a third sensor. So like, your size, weight, the swap, right? The size, weight, and power allocation for up to 1 kg. To be honest, as far as I know, no user is really using that allocation for a third sensor. I think one user is looking into adding a methane gas detector, but I don't know that that's actually flying already. But yeah, depending on the application, right, that you're interested in. If it's something that we believe we can't achieve with the 4K camera and the thermal, then we can look into utilizing that available swap space volume, whatever you want to call it.
Fantastic. And I can imagine you've had a number of inquiries around the LiDAR side of things. Are there any use cases today around LiDAR, or is it in the roadmap? What's that look like?
All right, so I was trying to circumvent that question, right? But okay, so LiDAR, guys, that we had a number of users come back to us and say we want a LiDAR. Usually what we say is, we ask back, what is the application, you want to use the LiDAR for? Do you want to use a LiDAR for the sake of flying a LiDAR, or what's the outcome you want to achieve? Now, until today, our machine vision team, product team, was able to show the customer that we are actually able to achieve the outcome through our 3D modeling with the 4K camera. Now, eventually the application will come that we are not able to achieve with a 4K camera. Then there are LiDAR options in the market today that can fit within the available space. These are not utilized today. And I'm not sure they are in the roadmap. Again, where there will be a specific requirement and a specific use case that we'll see the only solution is a LiDAR, that's when it will be introduced into the roadmap.
Fantastic. And another query here is surrounding like the cloud processing and cloud data storage. As I know for us in particular, we've had questions about this in the past, but maybe a little bit more around the cloud processing, but also around facilities to be able to store that data on site. Yeah.
All right. So our system is cloud-based. So it's Amazon, AWS, Amazon-based, cloud instance. So capacity is not really limited. It's AWS. We can have a discussion on using, organizational cloud. So it's easier if it's AWS, but it can also be, explored if it's Azure, Microsoft. We have solutions around on-premises servers. Those solutions have their limitations. And again, that's a discussion that can be had. Most of, if not the vast majority of our applications and users are cloud-based, and our cloud, which is again the AWS one.
Great. And then I think what we'll do is we'll wrap up after the back end of this question here. But in terms of a project itself, what is the maximum range, I guess, you can have from a base station? And also I'd like you to comment, I know this, for example, for myself, because we've had many conversations together, but specific around, working in pods of Percepto units, so being able to have allocations of multiple units on sites. What sort of range are you working with one unit as such?
All right, so the system itself can fly something like 18 kilometers, right, in a straight line and drop out of the sky without power. Okay, so that's one. We usually say that up to 5 kilometers range, that's kind of what we don't recommend. If you have a very big site and you need to operate in a radius that's greater than 5 kilometers from your base station, then it becomes, let's explore a number of base units, right, or a number of drones. But one system up to a radius of 5 kilometers allows you sufficient on-mission, time, whilst going back and forth to the base and having sufficient power as reserve power to land. This is assuming LTE. If it's a point-to-point application, it's a bit less. Our system does allow for base hopping, we call it. So you can take off from base A and land in base B, which then allows you to be a bit smarter if you have a very big site. For example, the fact that the system is mobile-ish, okay, and again, you can put it on a trailer. If you are a mining company that deals with surface mining, and the center of gravity of the mine is slowly gradually moving, so there's no problem every few weeks, you know, moving the trailer to the new center of gravity of that mine. Now, as far as the number of drones, yes, our system allows the utilization of you know, a number of drones. I don't have any ranges, you know, if it's more than XY square kilometers, then that's when you need 2 drones. I don't have that type of information, but yes, you can use fleets or 2 or 3 or 4 systems within the same CMS, we call it the cloud management system, within your license. If that makes sense.
All right, thank you, Ron. And look, we've got time for one more question, and there's a good one here. In terms of redundancy, so if there's no LTE, what are the fallbacks for the system itself?
All right, so there's quite a number of redundancies, not just around communication, but of course for the different regulators to allow the system to operate autonomously and beyond visual line of sight, they need to be sufficiently satisfied with the you know, procedures for loss of GPS or loss of comms or loss of whatever. So in the case of loss of communication, in LTE, we always have a secondary channel that's enabled on the drone, where it's a point-to-point type of channel. So that's one. But the drone, before it takes off, before it departs the base, before it takes off for a mission, as part of the built-in test, it also downloads the most updated site information, right? Where it can and where it can't fly, at what altitudes, what's, you know, a fly zone, what's a no-fly zone, and therefore, even when if the drone loses communication in the air, it still knows where it can and can't fly. It knows where the base is, how to fly back to it. It knows where its emergency landing positions are. So according to a number of rules within the system, in case of loss of communication, you know, when a certain amount of time passed and there isn't a return of communication, then it will execute a return to base or land at the nearest emergency landing spot. There's a bit of you know, safety logic and rules in there to mitigate such instances.
Beautiful, thanks, Ron. And I guess once again, I think that's where we'll end it there. I'd like to thank Ron today for joining us and the team at Percepto. Much appreciated, and I hope everyone has learned enough today. Ron, is there anything else that you wanted to mention on the back end of this webinar?
No, just thank you, Paris, for inviting us and hosting us, and I enjoyed it. I hope everybody else.
Have you done one of these before?
Sorry?
Have you done one of these before?
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, well, again, thank you very much, Ron. A couple of things before we close off this webinar today. Next Tuesday, we've got a webinar on indoor drone inspections using the Flyability Elios. Next Thursday, we have one on Australian drone registration and accreditation with the drone lawyer. And then the following Tuesday, drone security and data transparency. So pretty much anything that comes out of drone, where does it go and where is it? I'd like to ask you all to recommend these webinars, especially during this time of crisis. You know, it's nice to get everyone online, and if you could share out our webinar links throughout the course. On the back end of this webinar today, you'll receive an email. So again, from everyone here at the team at Sphere Drones, we'd like to thank you all very much for attending. And if there's any questions or queries on the back end of this, I'm happy to share Ron's contact details and get us all in an email chain and open up discussions if there were any other questions. So again, thank you very much and really appreciate everyone's attendance, and thank you, Ron.
Thanks guys. Take care, stay safe.
Stay safe.